It's wild card weekend, and this is your DraftKings NFL first look. We're going to take a look at the Saturday only slate. We're also going to take a look at the Sunday only slate. We're going to build a first look lineup and primarily just go through these slates, talk about who's available, who we like, who we don't like, and just understand these matchups. So let's dive right into it, starting with the Saturday only. And before we actually look at the players and who's available to us, let's take a quick look at the matchups here. And you can see we've got the Browns on the road at the Texans. That game has a 44.5 point total, with the Browns installed as 3.5 point favorites. They're 2.5 point favorites, it looks like right now. Next, we have the Dolphins at the Chiefs, and the Chiefs are home favorite in that one. The game has a 44 point total. So two really similar totals here, very similar team totals as well. So a lot of possibilities for the Saturday slate. So let's jump in. Let's take a quick look here and understand some of these matchups and who looks interesting, and take a look at some of these salaries as well. So at the top of the pricing chart, we've got Mahomes. He's at home taking on Miami. Miami has not been that great against the pass, which is fine. But at the same time, Mahomes has just not been that great this year. He's only averaging 19.3 fantasy points per game. And if you take a look at the results from Mahomes this year, outside of pretty much just one game against the Chargers, he's been pretty much a dud. Now, that doesn't mean anything here. This game has fireworks potential. I'm actually surprised at how low the total is right off the bat. I mean, if Miami's offense is clicking, they're scoring a lot, and the Chiefs will need to answer. So definitely going to keep him. Of course, we're going to keep them all in mind. But Mahomes price 7,100, a little spendy here. Next, we've got Tua, 7K on the road. I like Tua quite a bit in this matchup. KC, good defense, but the Miami offense is so explosive. One negative to Tua, I would say, is just with both sides of this game is just both teams have a pretty good running game at this point. Like, Miami can lean heavy on the run if they need to. So there's that possibility. Tua only averaging 17.9 fantasy points per game. And you could see here, it feels like it's been forever since Tua has had sort of a had to have it score. And it really actually has been the first couple of weeks of the season. Again, the Chargers, notorious, and that Denver game. But after that, those 230 plus point performances, Tua's been pretty pedestrian all year. And one of the things I like about Tua is you can get most of his upside just by playing Tyreek Hill. So we'll keep that in mind. Next up, we've got CJ Stroud. And for me, CJ Stroud has the worst matchup on the slate against the Cleveland defense. That's really, really good. Now, Stroud has been beyond, reproach, I guess, in the sense that no matter what the team has been, he's pretty much done well most of the season. So expect more of that here from CJ Stroud, but this is a tough matchup, and he's priced up there with Tua and Mahomes. So, I probably like Tua and Mahomes. If I'm spending up, probably like both of them better than Stroud. Stroud is pretty much my least favorite quarterback on the slate. And rounding out the 4-pack here, we got Joe Flacco, Joey Cool, with a great matchup on the road at Houston as a favorite. Flacco has done nothing but smash since he's taken over as the starter. Look at all these yardage totals, over 300 yards in his past 4 games, averaging 24.4 fantasy points per game. Guys, I'm clicking the button here on Joe Flacco to get this lineup started. All right, let's jump over to the running back position and see what we have going on. So Devon Achane, great. Right? Limited participant, banged up a little bit. Looks like Raheem Mostert also banged up a little bit. So it's looking a little sketchy with the Miami Twins, especially if both of them are healthy for this game. That is not a good scene. So we'll see about these two. I think the first button click, though, and pretty much a lock button play for me, is going to be Pacheco. There's no Jerick McKinnon. He's on IR. So for the most part, Pacheco is just going to get all of the work. They'll mix in Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire is, nothing special. So I think we will see Pacheco getting all the work here, and I am plugging him in for sure in this lineup. Now, the other possibilities here, Devin Singletary, tougher matchup for Singletary. He's gotten a lot of volume lately, but I think the Cleveland matchup is tough, but as long as he's getting that volume, I'm good with it. So he is somebody who would be in my mix. And Jerome Ford, not Gerald Ford. So President Ford. Jerome Ford is the other one. One thing of note with Ford is you really haven't seen him. He never really gets more than 15 touches in a game. So his volume is limited. He's 5,500. I'm just trying to see if there's anybody else. If one of Mostert or Achane was going to be out this week, I'd certainly have some interest in Jeff Wilson Jr. as well. So until we know that one of them was out, or if there's any situation like that, assuming it's not, obviously Jeff Wilson Jr. is not going to be of interest. But I think it's also really important to note that with just really four or five relevant running backs here, this feels like a 2 running back only slate. And I think the second running back choice is going to be important. For now, I'm going to slide Achane in there. He's sort of my favorite of the rest, but I really don't mind paying down with Singletary or Ford at all. I mean, I think it's fine. So again, I don't love Singletary standalone, but I don't really love any of the options at running back outside of Pacheco. And I do think I will have a ton of Pacheco on this slate. I'll slide Achane in here, but let's see what we need with salary at the end. Now, one cool thing about this particular slate is there are some really great high-end options at the wide receiver position, and they all look really, really good. Obviously, we can't play them all, but they all look really good. So starting at the top, I feel like Tyreek Hill is pretty much a must play. I don't see how he can be held down. It's the playoffs. Teams are going to do what they do best. I don't love the Q tag, but even in the last week of the season, 13 targets, 21 fantasy points. Tyreek Hill is kind of a must play. He's a little underpriced at 8,700 relative to where he's been lately. So to me, he is the top play on the slate, and I love it. But of course, the 8,700, you'll see there's not that much value. So when you play a Tyreek Hill, you have to sacrifice elsewhere. All of these high-end options, though, are really good on this particular slate. Nico Collins, sure, why not? I mean, it's a tougher matchup, but we saw what happened in the final game of the season, 37.5. Like, it seemed like every pass was intended for Nico Collins, and that's just because they have no one else to throw to. So he's going to be a good play as well, but he's taken on a pretty good Cleveland defense. Amari Cooper. We've got Joe Flacco in here. Amari Cooper just fits naturally with him. 15 targets against Houston in the last time he played. 54 points. He got you into the playoffs. Nothing wrong with that. He's been resting for multiple weeks at this point. I guess he didn't play weeks 17 or 18. We'll see. There is some, of course, he's hurt risk. But, I mean, if we're playing Joe Flacco, we probably want Amari Cooper. But I have to say, Rashee Rice also has been spectacular for the most part. Just prior to that last game of the season, he had been seeing anywhere from 9 to 10 targets per game for a while. There it is. I mean, 10, 9, 10, 9. He's just the primary wide receiver for the Chiefs at this point. So I love Rice as well. Obviously, you can see here we don't have enough salary to afford these 3 studs, and Achane just can't do it. So we'll have to adjust, but it's important to understand what things are going to look like this week. If you play 2 reasonable running backs, let's see if we drop down to a cheaper running back. Yeah, it's still not going to look very good. So let's jump over to defense. We'll do defense. We'll do tight end. I have a little strategy concept at tight end that I think you guys are going to like, and I think it'll give us a little bit of edge potentially. But at defense, I think you just kind of want to go with a cheap one here. I don't mind the Browns at 3,300, like in the sense that they could have a good game. I don't mind the Texans. I think any one of these defenses is playable, but I'm just going to choose the cheapest one. But again, I prefer a home team. Let's see, what's KC? Yeah, there we go. I'll go with the home Chiefs. Fine. I'll do it. But any one of these defenses can work, and I don't really think. I don't know. I don't know if it's that important. All right, so I wanted to talk about a little strategy I have at the tight end position. So there's 2 ways to go with tight end, of course. One is the pay up option. Great, right? Kelsey, fine, great play. Sure, he hasn't done it in a while, but you never know. It's the playoffs. He can have one of his big games, right? I'll certainly have a lot of exposure to Travis Kelsey. David Njoku has been spectacular with Flacco, and you really do want to pair him up with Flacco here if possible. So I don't mind that, and I certainly will have a ton of this stack. And I think this lineup will do well with Njoku because I have Flacco in here, so I'm probably going to keep him in there. But I also wanted to talk about a little strategy concept I have. Dalton Schultz is fine. But strategically, I think one way to go at tight end this week on this particular slate would be just to straight punt it. By that, I mean just throw in somebody like a $2,500 Harrison Bryant, a Noah Gray, a Durham Smythe even, just a straight punt at the position. And the reason I would do it is because if you do that, you kind of can afford to get these 3 studly wide receivers in your lineup. And let's see what we have room for in the flex here. It's not going to be good at 3,800, but the whole nothing is good in the cheaper zone at wide receiver. So we didn't really get to this. So let me pull through and I'll show you what I mean. I do like Elijah Moore a little bit. Actually, I kind of like that quite a bit. But when you scroll down the wide receiver group and you get past, the stud zone, Collins, of course, will like him. Got Noah Brown here. Okay, we'll see if he plays. He's got that Q tag. Elijah Moore is really interesting at 4K. And he's definitely a punt that we're going to have a lot of exposure to. 0 targets last week, but 2 weeks ago with the Browns, with Flacco at the helm, he did put up 17. He got 6 targets, had 4 targets a week before that. Also another big Joe Flacco game. So this guy stinks. Let's keep it real. But all the options that are inexpensive on this 2-gamer are not very good. So this guy stinks, sure, but whatevs. Cedric Wilson Jr., he's kind of playing the WR3 role. You got Robert Woods. He's playable, I guess. Watson, he's had some targets in recent weeks, so that could really work as well. So a few different ways to go with this final wide receiver spot / the flex spot. But like I said, I think it's a really interesting approach this week to maybe just super punt the tight end position. Of course, I really do like David Njoku for a lineup like this, paired up with Flacco. And to do that and pay up here, we would have to sacrifice another one of these wide receivers, and it will get ugly no matter which one it is. Let's see if there's a version. Yeah, I mean, Jalen Waddle, it's not that good, right? If you take out Hill, and who wants to take out Hill? If we take out Amari Cooper, we got to be down here and pretty much play somebody like Elijah Moore. So think about it like this: either kind of an Njoku and 2 super punt wide receivers, or a super punt tight end and a super punt wide receiver with another stud wide receiver. That's pretty much how this week is going to go on this particular slate. I do like spending down for Flacco. You can see every dollar kind of counts on a slate like this. So keep that in mind as we are taking a look at the Saturday only. Now, let's transition to the Sunday on the slate. I also want to send out a shout out to KR Lesh, who took first place in this showdown this past week, another DFS Army Wall of Champions member. Here you've got Steamboat Willie in there as well. And we love the 20 max. If you ever watch the showdown breakdowns that we have here on the DFS Army YouTube channel, we recommend picking one captain and sticking with it. And KR Lesh actually just followed the what was said by DFS Up North in the breakdown video, which was just lock in Josh Allen on this particular slate, lock him in as captain. This was the game where Josh Allen, it was the Miami Bills versus the Bills game, and he locked Josh Allen, just ran the domination stage, 20 lineups, boom, took it down. Love to see it. Congrats to KR Lesh on the swag as well. He gets a swag bag and all that good stuff. All right, let's switch over to the Sunday slate. And as I say this, I'll remind you, hit that like button if you're enjoying this content. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you want to check out DFS Army, link is in the description below, but you get 10% off with code GEEK. It's a great time to join. We are going bananas for the playoffs here. So I love playoff slates, and this is just the first one, but my favorite way to attack these slates, to be very, very clear, is mass multi-entry. We're going to build these first look lineups, but I think it is important to remind everybody, I like to mass enter these. I like to MME them. It's only 3 games. You're trying to take down a big tournament, and using the Domination Station Optimizer, the new sim boost rules as well to simulate game action. All of that stuff is how I like to attack this kind of slate primarily. And later in the week, of course, I will do some optimizer build videos for DFS Army subscribers who have access to these tools. But with that being said, let's take a look at this next slate. This is Sunday. We've got 3 games on the docket. 2 of them look pretty good. And then one of them, what the hell is this total, right? Steelers, not looking that good. Not looking that good. I'm really surprised at the team total for the Steelers, by the way. I think that's way too low, and I'm going to be betting the over on that. I don't think Mason Rudolph's been fine, and the Buffalo defense not that great, so we'll see about this one. But we've got Steelers at the Bills. Bills have a nice little team total here, 23.5, but it's not the highest on the slate by any stretch. The game total looks gross, so we'll keep that in mind. Non-competitive. This seems like the fade game to me. We've got the Packers at the Cowboys. And again, I think this total seems a little bit high, in my opinion. Cowboys defense is really, really good. And I think they will, as hot as Jordan Love has been, I do think the Cowboys will have success at home at shutting down the Packers. So let's keep that in mind as we're building. I do love the Packers offense, though, in that game, and that'll be something I really want to focus on. And then in the third game here, the best game of this slate, we have a dome game. I like that both of these are in the dome, by the way. That is a positive. It's wintertime. Let's get some indoor games. So we have a dome game, the Rams at the Lions, points galore, 51.5 point total, close spread. That is the game of the weekend. So Lions, Rams, Cowboys are the offenses I want to focus on for the slate as much as possible. All right, let's jump over to Sunday here on DraftKings. We'll just look at some of the salaries for these players, and you know how we do. We've been doing this all year long. We've been doing a first look. It's week 1. You guys know the drill. So let's jump into this one, starting with the quarterback position, right? So at the very top, Josh Allen, and Josh Allen's been great. He's been great. He's not been great to stack. He's been a great standalone play. Last week, I guess it was like Khalil Shakir. It was just random. I think Dalton Kincaid had a big week. Khalil Shakir came in when Gabriel Davis got hurt and actually winds up with having a pretty big game as well. So we're going to have to pay attention to those injuries and see what happens there. Dak Prescott, 7,600. Fantastic. High team total. Love that spot. But the salary is a little bit restrictive here. I think the top spot for me is going to be Stafford and the Rams at 60. This seems crazy to even say it. I love Dak here, but the spend is challenging. I think Dak is the best QB play on the slate. And, Josh Allen's fine as well, but I think Dak might be the best of them. But it's, I'm going to plug him in because I do think he's the best, but I think at 7,600, we have to be careful. That's a lot to spend. We can save by going down to Stafford and, even Jared Goff, even Mason Rudolph. I don't think I'm going to take any of these guys out of my player pool. Even shitty Mason Rudolph. The Bills defense has not been good against the pass. So, I don't know. I think he'd be playable as well. I don't like it, but I certainly think Dak is the best play. Josh Allen is fine, but that game does not look competitive. Super low total. He's not fun to stack. So there's a lot of reasons why. And then, of course, Stafford looks really good. You love stacking him up with Puka or Cooper Kupp. And, that matchup is really great. It's indoors, all of those things. So definitely a few good spots here to target. I'm going to plug Dak in for this lineup, but again, I'll be building heavily around Matthew Stafford, a little bit around Goff. Goff is always at risk of just getting vultured by his running backs. So, his production is just all over the place. You see here, even in a big win against the Vikings, he's only put up 14. So Jared Goff's all over the place. Good GPP play, though. Good GPP play as well. And of course, not that difficult to stack Goff as well. We'll get into all that as the week continues. All right, taking a look at the running back position here. Kyren Williams, of course, the top dog on this particular slate, coming at 7,300. Lions defense has been really good versus the run. I don't think it matters that much. You got to throw some of that out. They've been good against the run. I get it. But Kyren Williams has been an absolute beast, a volume machine most weeks, just putting up big numbers, averaging 22.9. He's almost Christian McCaffrey. And I like it. So he is the top target for me at running back. James Cook is fine, lacks some touchdown equity, so be careful with that. Gibbs is just similar. Like, it's going to be great or it's going to be terrible. There's rarely much of a middle ground with him. He's not going to see more than 15 touches most weeks. And, if he's not hyper efficient with those touches, it doesn't go well. Aaron Jones also not somebody I'm super excited about this week at Dallas. On the road at Dallas is not a good scene for me. Montgomery, another guy, he's, look at the ceiling. It's not there. The ceiling is not there for Montgomery. For him to get a 26, 12, 18, 24, I mean, he hasn't done it since week 5. It's just not really there for me. So that's a challenging one. Here we've got Tony Pollard at 6,100. Another guy, man, last week. I just want, finally, if you broke and played some Tony Pollard, even last week in the best matchup ever, he still can't get it done. He just never gets it done, right? I don't think it's starting now. We already know who this guy is, and he's not that good, right? I'm going to tell you which way I'm going to go here. I actually think that a solid way to go, and there it is. The reason that Pollard's not getting it done, Rico Dowdle's coming in, getting, last week, Rico Dowdle got a lot of that work, but what happened with Ronnie Rivers last week here? Yeah, he got 13 carries, didn't do much. He won't do much in this game, but I actually think Jaylen Warren here at 5,100 going to catch some passes in a game where his team is going to be playing from behind. I actually don't hate this play. I think Jaylen Warren is a nice little tournament play. I think it gets you a little bit of uniqueness, as most people are probably going to try to kind of pair up Pollard and Kyron Williams or James Cook or something like that. So I'm going to go down to Jaylen Warren and YOLO. All right, let's take a look at the wide receiver position. And of course, at the top of the list is CeeDee Lamb here at 9K. Again, going to be challenging to afford. Actually, you know what? Before we do wide receiver, because I'm already seeing I have no salary left. I want to plug in CeeDee Lamb, and it's like there's no money left. So let's get the defenses going here first. Bills defense, by far the standout defense on the slate, although I think Dallas is playable as well. These other defenses are all just generally less good. But if we needed to spend all the way down, I'm going with the Steelers. The Bills have been shooting themselves in the foot all season long. They've been making mistakes. I don't even think there's been a game where Josh Allen hasn't thrown an interception. That's right. He's got 18 on the season, so he's averaging more than 1 interception per game. Good enough for me. I want a cheap defense in here. We're going to plug in the Steelers. But obviously on defense, the best plays are probably going to be the Cowboys if we have the salary for it. And the Bills probably the best. I probably like the Bills better than the Cowboys in this spot. But paying $3,500, a little spendy. We'll see, at the end if we could get there. All right, jumping over to the tight end position. I don't expect Sam Laporta to play. So let's start there. It's important because that delivers us Brock Wright, the backup, for close to min salary, or at least at 3K. So we do have an option all the way down here at 3K. If Tyler Higbee doesn't play, then Dennis Allen would be really interesting here at 2,700 as well. That'd probably be one of my favorite plays on the slate. So I'm trying to see when the last time Tyler Higbee played. He played in week 17. He was inactive expectedly for the last game of the season when they sat all their starters. So, my guess is Higbee will be fine and we won't get the Dennis Allen, gift. But if we could have that would be really nice. But I'm actually going to plug in Brock Wright on this one. Just to mention, though, here, Ferguson, yeah, sure. Great. It's been solid all year. Good pairing with Dak. Dalton Kincaid, also really good. 8 targets last week. I love Kincaid at this price. And we might double tight end on this particular slate. That's another thing to keep in mind. I think a lot of these options at tight end in the 4K range are significantly better options than what wide receivers or running backs are available at that price. And that's, when we talk about like double tight end and when it's relevant, this is when it becomes relevant. These shorter slates where there's just not that many players available, and it's not that much value, and you can actually just get one of these tight ends and they have a higher target projection and higher fantasy projection than any of the wide receivers in the same price range. And there are no running backs down there. So that's what we're working with, right? So let's get into his wide receiver position. And of course, CeeDee Lamb, spectacular. He's exactly who you want with Dak Prescott. Great. Amon-Ra, also fantastic. high floor guy, averaging 22.4 points per game in the dome. Great situation. Cooper Kupp, very good. Puka, great. Stephon Diggs, listen, sketched about him at this point. It's been forever since Diggs has had a big game. So, I'm definitely not super confident in him. And I probably reserve him for like Josh Allen lineups exclusively. If we're going to pay that much for a wide receiver, they're probably dragging, like this one anyways, probably dragging his quarterback to the finish line with him. Puka, between Kupp and Puka has been getting it done better recently. So I'm gonna lean Puka there. Now we've got a couple of these Packers wide receivers. Jayden Reed has been great. He's just putting up numbers. Even last week, only 4 targets, had one big play in there that put up a big score. I don't love the matchup at Dallas for the Packers at all, so I'm trying to avoid them for the most part. But Jayden Reed, fine. It'd be, even more appropriate in the sense of having a bring back in this lineup, but I don't think that's that important on a 3-game slate. We really just kind of want to play the best plays. A little stacking, but just play the best plays and the best values. Dubs, same difference. Gabriel Davis, I don't know if he's playing this week, but Gabriel Davis is very clearly, generally just somebody you want to favor with Josh Allen as well. So, but I'm not sure if he's going to play. We've got the twins from Pittsburgh, Pickens and Deontay Johnson. They're both fine. Brandon Cooks, good pairing with Dak here as well. And Dontavian Wicks continues to get some targets. We have to see if Christian Watson's going to be healthy. But in order to make this lineup work, we're going to have to go low. So let's kind of take it to the next level down here and see what wide receivers are floating around in the cheapest realms of salary here. And you got Josh Reynolds. He's coming off 7 targets. You know what? Not bad. Josh Reynolds last week, 7 targets with Jameson Williams, who has been out, expected to be good to play. So with Jameson Williams coming back, actually Jameson Williams becomes kind of interesting play here at 3,500 if he comes back. So let's keep him in mind. Demarcus Robinson. It looks like they rested him in week 18, or he didn't get any action in week 18. He is still operating as a WR3. He will get targets as well. Khalil Shakir in play as well. So I think these are the 3 wide receivers that are going to be like the super punt level on the slate, the sub 4K guys. I think it's this trio. I think it's Reynolds. I think it's Robinson, and I think it's Shakir. I probably favor Shakir the most out of them, but after this, it gets really gross at the position group. So I don't expect we'll be needing to dive much deeper than this trio. So let me plug in Josh Reynolds here. Is he better? I'm going to go with Khalil Shakir. Just first look stuff. It really doesn't matter to me between these 3. It's more setting a salary level and just understanding how much salary we have left to spend. Tight end position. Again, I really like Ferguson. I like Kincaid. So I think there's a few you could double down. And of course, we could also take a shot with Brock Wright. And that's why I'm going to go here. I'm going to go with Brock Wright because I want that cheapness. And look what it gets us. $6K of salary left. And we're going to climb our way up. To another stud wide receiver in this lineup. And honestly, it does not make any kind of difference to me if it's Puka, Cooper, or Amon-Ra. If I plug in Amon-Ra St. Brown, let's see, we got 4K left. That gets us, one of these 4K or, another super punt. Doesn't get us the double tight end that I was hoping for. So actually what I'm going to do here is switch Amon-Ra for somebody else, and we'll go down to Puka. And with Puka in there, I've got 4,800 left, and now I'm going to be able to plug in one of Ferguson or Kincaid in the final spot. So that's my first look on the Sunday slate. Obviously, kind of get an idea of how this is going to flow. Most of the lineups are going to have probably either 2 studly running backs or 1 stud and 1 pay down option. And if you want to get Lamb in there, you can pretty much get him in there with a second stud wide receiver, but you have to super punt 2 more spots and have a middle spot and then a tight end in the flex like Ferguson. So I actually think this is pretty indicative of what to expect. It's really easy to change this around, and you can go from a Dak lineup to a Stafford lineup. It's going to, you'll open up some salary there, and now I can pretty much get off one of these other spots and improve it. I can get up to Amon-Ra here, which is something you definitely would want to do with Stafford, and maybe that actually is more than enough to do. And I'll probably switch up Let's see here. Nope. Yeah. Could get on to Brandon Cooks. Like, there's a lot of different ways to go here, but it should be a really fun slate. It should be a fun 3-game slate to attack. It's a great 2-game slate to attack. Remember, on the 2 and 3-game slates, if you're using the optimizer, for those that you really want to allow players versus defense, you cannot build lineups without using at least some players versus your defense. You see here, I got some salary left over. We can possibly improve our get up to these elite defenses if we want, but I'm not going to worry too much about paying up on defenses this week. My prime goal is going to be really trying to choose right at the running back position, get a little different at and look for ways to be different in the lineups that we build for tournaments. So that's going to do it for the breakdown, guys. Hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. We will have tournament tactics this week with Bobby Wow and Burns and myself kind of getting into the tournament strategies for the slate. So look for that later this week. And of course, another showdown breakdown for the Monday Night Football special. Love the playoffs. Super excited for this. Make sure to build a lot of lineups for this one. I think that's the best way to attack this playoff slate. It's not really necessarily try to build one, build a bunch of lineups, tell a lot of different stories, and good luck this weekend. We'll see you here on the next one.